Okay, so in the last class we have seen this example where I told you how to combine two arrays to form a third array. So the combined takes two array. The first array will be the keys and the second array will be the value. It combines them and makes them as a single array. And also I have told you what is array difference. That is how to find the difference between the two arrays. So we have two arrays here, array 1 and array 2. What is the meaning of saying difference? Difference is something which is there in the first array and which is not there in the second array. All the elements which are common across the first and second array are striped out. The remaining arrays or remaining elements in the first array will be retained. The next one that we have seen is the array fill. That is used to fill the elements of the array with a specific value. So if you notice over here, it has a start index. Number of times this element has to be repeated and the value of this element. For example, I want to repeat this 6 times starting at the index location 5. So from the 5, it's going to repeat 6 times. If you use the negative symbol as or a negative number as the starter, then this will be the first index of the new array. Remaining elements will be starting from the 0. So the first element will get that thing. After onwards, it just takes the 0 index element, but it's going to repeat it 4 times. Next one is to merge the two arrays. Now, merging is nothing but combining two arrays to form a third larger array. So it is the word remains same except that there are few restrictions. One of the restrictions is when you try to merge two arrays, if there are same string keys, there is one will not the value will override with the others. For example, if the input array has the same string case, the later value will override the previous one. If it is a numeric array, it will not override. That means to say that if you have the first element with the same key and the second element with the same key, the second one will override the first value. Okay. The last one is if the input array is numeric keys and it will be renumbered when it is combined. Let me show it with a simple example. So I have a key which is a string and here there is no key. It means to say that they are numerically indexed, whereas this is string indexed. I want to combine this array with the other array. So when I try to do it, what is going to happen? You notice that both of them have the same key color, and the first array has the value red and the second array has the value green. So when you merge the first array with the second one, what is going to happen is this key which is common across both of them will be overridden. So this red value will be overridden by the second array. What will happen to the numerically indexed one? Even though this one does not have any key, but it is assumed that it's a numerical key, so this will have 0, 1. So if you take the key of here, this is red, next one will be 0 index and next one will be 1 index. And you notice that in the resultant key, 2 will come here, 4 will come here. Okay. This 4 will not replace anything. So numerical values will not replace the value. Only the string value will be there. Also, you will notice that there is a shape here, and the shape does not exist in the first array. In that case, the shape will come as it is. So only if it is a numerical value or a numerical key, they will come as it is. If you notice the numbering of this one, so this is 0, 1, and this will have the 2 keys, and this one will have the index as 3. This is there at the index location 3, but when it is combined, it gets the next index. That's the meaning of it. When you combine the numerical values, they will not replace, but the index value will be the next available one. So 2 will get the index 0, 4 will get the index 1, A here will get the index 2, B here will get the index 3, and this already has an index, so that index will not be touched. Then 4 will get the index 4. Now if you take this matrix alone, I mean this array alone, you will notice that this element has the index 0. So this is at the index 0. This one will be there at the index 1. If I just consider this array, not the combined array, this already has an index, this already has an index, and this one will have the index 3. But you notice over there, even though the index of this is 0, it will not replace this index. It comes to the next available one. These two will take the first indices. After that, 2 will come. After that, 3 will come. Then 4 will come. Okay. So if the two keys are repeated, the second one will override the first one. If the key is not repeated, it's not going to do override. It will not override it. The things will remain same. The next one is to slice an array. That is, the word meaning itself is same. You are going to cut the array into smaller pieces. How do you do it? You supply an array, you supply the offset, you supply the length, and you say whether you need to preserve the keys or not. So, very large number of arguments which you are going to pass. Let's look at it in a simple example. So we have the array A, B, C, D, E, and I am just saying 2 here. So what is the meaning of 2 here is name of the array, and I am giving the offset. That's the only thing, name and offset. That means I am saying from the second index value, take up all the, from the second element, take up all the remaining element. So it goes here. If you look at this one, this has the index 0, the next one will have the index 1, the next one will have the index 2, and the next one will be the index 3. I am writing the index here, and it is 4. Now what is given here is from the offset 2, take up all the elements. These 2 are gone. From here onwards, if nothing is specified, it means go till the end. So it's going to return all the remaining elements. Okay. If you specify the values, like from 0, take up next 3 elements. So from 0, take up next 3 elements, it's going to return ABC. So from the offset, how many elements has to be returned? Now what will happen if the offset itself is given as negative, as in this case? So this is a negative value that is being supplied there. So negative 1 means from the last one, so take the 2 here, so from the last come back -2 and then take the 1. So -2 means from the end come back to the -2 step and then take 1 element. So it's going to return this. So instead of this, if it is instead of this value, if it is mentioned as -3, 2. So if this is mentioned as -3, 2, what's the meaning of it? From the last, go 3 step minus, take the 2 elements from here. So it's going to take these 2 elements. That is the meaning of it. Now what will happen if this length itself, the last one, the length itself is given as -1. That means to say that if you look at here, minus means again it's the same old thing. You go from here, take 2 steps. So if I here, if you look at this one, this offset 2 means you are there at this location. Okay, so minus 2 values from there. So you are going to take 2 things from there. So here, from this location, okay, come from here, okay, leave out this 1 minus. So what's the meaning of this is, this minus says, you are here, if you ignore this minus sign, you are here. Okay. This indicates without the minus sign, offset 2 is this value. Now what is said is, from here, go to all the elements except the last one. So that means minus 1 means do not take this one. So last, this minus means, length is minus means don't take the last one. If the length is minus 2, it just means to say that don't take the last 2 elements. From that position, don't take the last 2 elements. What is this then? Take 2 steps. If you look at here, it just means to say that take 2 steps. Look at this one. Go minus 2 steps and take the first element. What is the meaning of this? From this location, go till the end, but don't take the last value. That is the meaning of slight variation. Okay. Now, what's the meaning of last one? Preserve equal to true means preserve the indexes. If you notice over here, when it returned the value C and B, this was having a different index and it changed the index. In this case, it changed the index. If you say preserve index equal to true, it will retain its original index. So that's the meaning of saying preserve the key or preserve the index is equal to true. So it will return the value. This one is a very obvious one. It reverses the array. So if you want to reverse an array, it is straightforward. There is a simple way of doing it. You can supply whether the preserve key is true or false. If it is true, it's going to be it will preserve the keys. However, you must be understand this. If it is set to true for numeric keys are preserved, non-numeric keys are not affected by this settings. So it just means to say that if the keys are numeric, it will preserve it. If it is non-numeric, it will not preserve. It will not touch the keys. With a simple example, you can get the idea. What is the meaning of this? So let's look at this array, PHP 4.0 green and red. If you just output this array as it is, index of 0 is PHP, index of 1 is 4, and the index of 2 is 2 elements, green and red. If you reverse this, what is going to happen? So you notice that initially PHP was at the index 0. So if you directly say reverse without saying anything, it's going to, this one is going to come here at the 0th index because there are only 3 elements. This will remain in the middle itself. The other one will come next. If you say preserve it, preserve the key, what is going to happen is this. If you notice over here, the index, it is actually reversed. This is reversed, but the index is kept as it is. The index is preserved. That's the meaning of saying preserve the index. What will happen instead of this? What would have happened if somebody has written instead of this statement? What would have happened if the array was like name and PHP and so on? What do I mean to say is, what if it was a string key rather than the numerical key? In that case, the keys will be preserved. Automatically, it will preserve the keys. How it has preserved the key here? Remember, it is the second index was the array. It preserved it. Whereas here, it is not preserving the key. It is just swapping it. or it is just reversing it. And if you notice, this was there at the key 2. This is the original that is being printed, the original array that is getting printed. And if you just call a reverse, it will reverse it to this will come here, and the problem is you lost the key. If you say preserve the key, this one will come here, but you notice that the key is preserved. It's not changing the key. The values are changed, but the key is preserved. Again, do not get confused with your other analogy of arrays. This is a very different type of array. You just have a key value there. You are just sorting the key values. We don't have something, the idea of arrays here that you used to have in the other programming language. Okay. A sort is used for associative arrays. So, if you want to maintain the indices, you can have it. And this one has a lot of options. If you want to sort it in the numerical way, string way, using the locale string. Like if you are using different languages, and in the languages the sorting will be different, you can go for this. Okay. So if you look at here, and the A sort will sort it in the order which is there. Now you can just say the different options are there: regular sorting and the other sorting. You need to remember only 5 functions for your examination, even though I go for more than one. The R here indicates the reverse. So if you get something called as R in between, the word R indicates it's a reverse sorting. So what is the meaning of saying reverse sorting? Sorting the ascending order or sorting the descending order. So that's the meaning of it. So R, wherever R comes, it just means to say that sorting the reverse order. Okay. So you notice that it is sorting in the reverse order. And K sort is key sorting. So what's the meaning of saying key sorting is the key itself is getting sorted. You notice that key here, do not bother about the values. This is the key that is getting sorted. D, A, B, C. After sorting, it is A, B, C, D. The key is getting sorted. That does not mean that the key is losing its value. D is still lemon, D is still lemon. C is still apple, and after key sort, only the keys are getting sorted along with its values. KR is reverse sort, the other way around. Again, you can specify the way in which you want to sort it. In terms of date and time, if you want to sort according to the month, day, this kind of thing. Even though wherever January, after January, February will come. But in English, if you sort January to December, the order in which the months will come is very different. You can change this one by setting the keys here. I have provided if you want to really go in depth into it, you can go for this one. Regular is this, numerical, case sensitive, and so on. You have a lot of options which are available. I'll quickly go through it because not really required. This is the case insensitive sorting. Okay. Again, in the natural ordering, what's the meaning of saying natural order? Natural order is how you, as a human, how you want it to be ordered. If you notice over here, 0, then we say 3 will come, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. I am not very sure whether you have sorted this one using non-natural way. If you sort it in the non-natural way, what is going to happen is 0 will come, 1 will come, after that 0 will come, 1, 2 will come, then 2 will come, then 3 will come. So it's going to be like this. I'm going to write only this part. It just takes a 0. After that, it's going to take 1. Then it's going to take 1, 0. How your dictionary ordering? 1, 2 will come, then 2 will come, then 3 will come. So this is the dictionary ordering. So you have 0, then 1. Assume that these names will be there as it is. 1, then 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. If you say natural ordering, what is the ordering? You notice that 0 will come, after that 1, 2, 3, then it is 10, then it is 12. Remember, this is a string, and if you sort it in the other technique, it's going to sort it in a way that you don't expect it to come, and that is what is called as the natural sorting. So that is called natural ordering. So it will sort it in the natural ordering. How you expect it to come? Not in the dictionary ordering. Okay? This is a built-in function. You can anytime you want, you can use it. The one that was there, this is case insensitive, not case is there. The other one is sort is a regular sort. You can sort it in the other order. This is the one that we will be using mostly without bothering about AR sort and other kind of sort. The ordinary sort, if you want, you can go for it and just print the file. This function is already known to you, and that is the count. Count will count the number of elements within the array. If you say count normal, it will count only the first dimension. If you say count recursive, it will count the second dimension also. So if you have a tabular arrangement with say 1, 2, 3, and maybe, so if you ask the question count, and if you say count normal, it's going to count 1 element, 2 element, 3 element, 4 element. It's going to say only 4 elements are there. It will not go to the second dimension. If you say recursive, it will even go to the second dimension. So in 1, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one dimension again. 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So it will count all the dimensions. You can have more than one dimension. So count will result in 3. So 3 elements are there. You notice that 3 elements are there, not their indexes. Indexes will not make any difference. 3 elements are there, it's going to count here. If you say count of null is 0, count of false is 1. So this could be asked for the MCQ question. What is the result of count of false? Count of false is 1, whereas count of null is 0. Include is a way in which you take an array and you convert that array into a string. If you want to convert the array into a string, you can use include function. For example, you have an array last name, email, phone. I want to get a comma separated value. So I say how this value must be separated. Separator could be hash, comma, plus any symbol. So this is a separator symbol and you specify the array. What will be the output? It's going to break this array. This is an array using the comma separation. So this blue indicates how you separate the element. Any character that you specify here will be used as a delimiter between the words. Okay. Now if you, this is the other one, if the array is blank and if you try to include it, you're going to end up in a null string because there is nothing is there in the string. The other one is an obvious one. If you just say it is a space separation, if you don't specify it, it just means to say that you want to use a space separation. Explode is the reverse of include. Include converts an array into a string. Explode will convert a string into an array. So simple as that. So you specify the delimiter within the string. So delimiter usually in a string is a space separation. So if you say take this as a string, there is a space separation here. If you want to convert it, you say the delimiter is a space and the string and how many elements you want to make converted into an array. So this is the limit. Out of this, do you want all of them or do you want only few elements? So this is the limit that you are specifying. So let's look at an example over here. So you have the piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, piece 6 within the pizza, and you are saying that the delimiter between the pieces are space. Explode it into an array. It's going to split it into an array. The first element of the array will have a piece 1, second element will have piece 2, and so on and so forth. Okay. If you specify a limit, what is going to happen? It will split into the limit. For example, if you take this first line here. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say up to here. I'm going to just mark up here. 5 elements are there. Now, if you say the limit is 3, what is going to happen? This will go to the 0, array of 0. This will go to the array of 1. The remaining string will go to the array of 3. So you are going to get, if this is 3, you are going to get, let's say, array of 0 will get return. So return will be there in the array of 0 and will be there in the array of 1. The remaining full thing will be there in the array of 3. So array 3 will contain the remaining element. So this is what is specified. The last element will contain the remaining string. So it's not, if you say there are 5 words are there, if you set the limit as 3, it does not mean that it's going to take only the first 3 words and it will leave out the third word, the remaining words. It will take all of them and put it in the third element. Now what will happen if you set the limit as negative? Okay? It will have everything last minus limit. So if you say minus 2, it means there are 5 words are there, 5 minus 2, 3 will be there. So that is the meaning. If you set the limit to be 0, it is meant to say that it is 1. You want only one element. So this is an example. There is one more example. You have the colon separation here between the elements. You say that separation is colon. This is your string. You explode it and you put it into a list function. It's up to you, or you can just put it into the array. Unset is used to remove an element from the scope. For example, if you have declared a variable and if you want to remove this variable from the usage, then you just say unset. It's going to remove the variable from the what was set. So just pull out that variable. However, it depends on what variable you are trying to unset. Now there are a lot of problems when you try to unset it. Not all the unset will be successful. So let's look at what are some of the problems. If you look at this example, you notice that there is a function, and this function is making use of a global variable. So if you notice over here, this foo is declared outside this function, and it is being referenced by this function because of this word global. And I told you, if you want to refer a variable which is outside the function, within the function, unlike your C program or C++ program, what is declared outside the function will not be automatically available within the function. It will not, this scope is different, it will not be directly available inside here. If you want the same value to be available here, you have to set it as global. Now what's the meaning of this? Both this and this are the same element, but I am unsetting foo from here. What will happen now? This variable within the given scope of this function is only unset. The global variable will not be destroyed. So what's the value inside this foo is bar. You are unsetting it inside the function. You call this function here. This function will unset foo. That does not mean that the global foo is being pulled out. After this function, if you call foo again, it's going to print the same value. So it just goes out of scope from this function. It will not go, you will not be able to unset it from the global scope. It's not possible. Okay. What if you really want to do it? If you really want to do it, go for a super global variable called as globals and then call this one. So here you are just saying that globals and then delete it. Now remember, like if today morning you are saying session. Session is a global variable, it's available everywhere. So if you want to say that this, when you declare it here, it becomes a global variable, and if you want to say within the function, you want to say that I want to destroy a globally declared variable called as bar, then you use this unset, then write the global array and then pull it out. Okay. The next one is what will happen if you try to delete a value which is passed by reference. I think I have already told you, pass by reference has the ampersand sign here. So when this function is called, if you notice over here, when this function is called, you are supplying the bar here, but this bar, if you notice here, this bar is a reference type. That means both of them are pointing to the same value. Within this function, the bar, which is the reference value, is being pulled out. Okay. So you unset this one. Then you declare a variable called as bar, and you give the value something else. After the function, you try to print the value. You notice that it's going to be the same thing. What is the meaning of it? Only the local variable is destroyed. It's the same thing. When you try to unset it within a function, only the local copy is unset. It will not affect the global copy at any time. The next one is what will happen if you have a static. I think I have given you one more example. Static variables will retain their value for the subsequent call. So this one is static. You increment a value, you print that value and then unset it. Then give one more value. You can guess what is going to happen. If you have got my guard, it just means to say that the local copies are only getting destroyed. Globally, it will not destroy. The static variable is actually not directly connected to the function. It is kept separate so that the values can get incremented. You call this function foo for the first time. What is going to happen? So when this function is called for the first time, it comes here. It is a static variable. It is incremented. Remember, the initial value is 0. So plus plus means, you know very well, integers are initialized to be 0. Plus plus means 0 plus 1, it's going to be 1. So it's going to say that before unset, this is the value. You unset this value. So this bar is gone. You assign a value 23 and you then print the value of bar here. And it's going to say it is 23. Call this function again. What is going to happen? This function will come back. Remember, it's a static variable. It's initialized once. So if this value itself was destroyed or it was unset, that value would have gone. But you notice that when you call it plus plus, it retains its last value, adds 1 to it, and it's going to print that before unset it is 2. That means to say that this bar still exists and it is not destroyed. So that's the meaning of it. And that is, when you unset it within the function, only that local copy goes. In any ways, the local copy just goes. The global copies are not destroyed. So from within the function, it's slightly very difficult for you. I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's difficult for you to pull out the global one. So what happens is, this is a static, and for all the subsequent values, if you notice that the static still retains its value. So when the function is called for the first time, if you ignore all of them, if you ignore this line, what will be the output? When the function is called for the first time, the static bar is initialized to 0, plus plus is going to print this, ignore this bar. Next time when you call it, static will retain the value for the subsequent call. So it's going to be plus plus of it is 2. Again, if this function is called, it's going to be plus plus of the last value, it's going to be 3. What will happen even after you destroy it? Even after you destroy the static bar, the effect is one and the same. The static values are same. So what's the meaning of this? The bar that got destroyed is the local copy of the bar, and after destroying it, after unsetting it, you say assign a value 23. Every time you assign a value 23, and you notice that every time it just says it's not a static copy that I'm trying to show you, it's a local copy that I have set. So when you say unset, what is being done here is this unset breaks out this static and makes this bar as a local copy. So this bar is no longer a static variable, it's just a local copy that is being used. Now this is just to tell you that how many remaining functions are there. So if you just go to the NetBeans itself, I've given you the location here, and this is the PHP.NET. This is going to give you all the functions and all the details, and I think I've already told you. If you start and if you go to the PHP here, and if you start typing array, and you notice that so many functions are there. So I'm not going to discuss all of them. It's not possible for me to discuss all of them. So there is going to be a terribly lengthy set of functions which are there. So you have to remember only 5 among them, and a question can be asked in the examination. These are the functions which are available. If you really want to do that thing, just go to the website, that is php.net. It's there in the slide. If you search for it, it's going to come. PHP, that's the official site of PHP, and you get you can download it, and so you can use it. So let's quickly look at a function. When do you use a function? If you want to organize the code, if you want the same code to be repeated again and again, and if you want to be easily debug your code. So that is the reason when you use the function. And there are two types of function like all the other programming language. One is a built-in function, which are readily available, and we have just seen few of the built-in functions in the arrays. And the other one is a custom function, wherein you can write your own functions. You have many string functions. We will say the string function again. You will have to remember 5 string functions for your semester exam. So this one, the word itself says string to uppercase, will convert it into the uppercase. Morning, you are just saying string comparison, which is identical to that of your C program. Now, how do you write a function? Function has to be written with a keyboard function, name of the function, and optionally you can supply the arguments, and then within the flower bracket specify the body of the name of the function. Again, it has the same rule as that of the variable name. However, try to avoid naming a function with the underscore. Even though it is valid, not try to use the underscore as your function name, because it means something, and you will come to know why you are supposed to avoid it. Also, avoid the built-in function name, otherwise you will confuse yourself. The PHP will not get confused, you yourself will get confused. So this is a simple example. I will not waste my time on that. So what you have here is a function name, what you have here is the argument, what you have is the body of the function, and how do you call this function? Very different from the program other variables. Remember, whenever you want to use a variable, you need this dollar symbol. Whenever you call this function, you don't need a dollar symbol, nor you use the dollar symbol when you declare the function. Okay. There is the other one major problem with it is when you talk about the function, you must always understand the function name is not case sensitive. So very important thing, whereas the variables names are case sensitive. So when you declare a variable, this variable is different from this variable, and the variable, this is also different. But if you have declared a function, this function is same as this function as well as this function. The name is not case sensitive, so be careful with that. It is case sensitive only with respect to the variable name, not the function names. So it's a usual step of confusion that is being used. Whenever a student tries to do that, they will get confused. So if you are using the IDEs like the NetBeans, the Eclipse, or Dreamweaver for that matter, they will actually prompt you and say that you are typing the same old thing. Okay? So the confusion will not be there. However, if you are using Notepad, which nobody uses, you will not be, Notepad cannot prompt you for the code correction. In that case, you will be in big trouble. Okay. The next one is how do you pass the values to the function? Specify the parameter name or argument name. Again, arguments are passed by value by default. If you want, you can pass it by reference. Okay. So the other one is what I think. Have you seen this one in Java? I think you already encountered this. If you want this variable to take a default value, then you specify the default value when it is declared. So lang is a variable, and by default it gets yes as the default value. Okay. So when there is a default value, if you don't supply the argument, it is assumed that the default values are taken. So you can specify a default value if you want, and if you supply actual parameter, that will override the one. If you notice over here, ES is being supplied, and if nothing is supplied, it takes the default and prints this one. If FR is supplied, it will take the FR and print the other one. Here I am using all my examples are the copy paste from the PHP.net. I am not using any example of my own. But the reason is it's not really required to prove my point on that. The next one is this is one interesting thing. Now let's look at this one. Now you might have used this Excel, and in the Excel you might have used this add function, or you might have used this sum function. I think there was this sum function. You can sum 2 numbers, you can sum 3 numbers, you can sum 4 numbers, you can sum 5 numbers. It goes on. That means the number of arguments can vary. Now, can I write a function in PHP that does the same thing? The answer is yes. Again, you don't have to declare the function before and then use it later. You can declare a function anywhere and use it. So, how do I write this function? So, I'm going to say function, and I'm going to say it does not take any parameter. Then how do I get the parameters that are passed? So I have already shown you this one. Function get argument will give you the argument number. Okay. So if I say get the argument 1, I'm going to get the argument 1. Let me not go for that. I'm going to just say this one. So function get number of argument. I'm going to just echo this inside here. So if I run this one, say I've supplied 5 parameters here, you will notice that it's going to give me the, ignore about this one. This is something which is already there. I'm just typing it over here. This has nothing to do with this. It's going to give me 5. So if I supply 2 more, and if I go back and just refresh it, it's going to give me the number of parameters that are supplied. So you are not supplying any parameter, but you are using a function called as number argument. It's going to give you a number of arguments. Suppose if I want to add them, how do I get it? Now if I want to add them, I can use a for loop. So for $i equal to 0, $i less than, I'm going to say number of arguments, $i plus plus, and I'm going to just initialize a variable, $total equal to 0. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say $total less equal to. So how do I get this one? So I will say func get the argument and the ith argument. So this is going to return the ith argument. In order to reduce the error, so I'm going to just print this out. I don't want to get unnecessary error messages, so I'm just pull this out, because when I try to add a non-integer, definitely I'm going to get a error message here. So I'm going to then concatenate it with a br. So I'm going to do it many times with the variable number of arguments. Okay, I think that some values are there. If we save it, I'm supplying a variable number of arguments. If I refresh this one, you notice that it is true. You don't have to cross verify. This is going to be true. The first 5 is because of this one. First 9 is because I'm printing echo function number of arguments. There are 5 arguments are there. Next time there are 9 arguments are there. This 9 is this line that is getting printed out. Then it's going to print the total of all this value, and it must be, I will not verify that, it has to be. Okay, so these two functions you can use it. Get, if you want to get all the arguments, you can get it like an array and then use it. So get get arguments will give all the arguments. So let's look at returning. If you want to return something from a function, you should return